Hi everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. This will be my review of episode 8 of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show, and much like my other reviews, we're doing it in two parts. The first part will be completely spoiler-free, so if you haven't seen the episode yet and you don't like spoilers, feel free to watch that. Then we'll give you a spoiler warning. At that point, I'll dive into specific character arcs, plot points, and different things about the episode to justify things I said in the spoiler-free version. But I'll give you fair warning first. Now, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what I do here, I cover Wheel of Time show news, which, let's face it, there's going to be a lot more of now because this season is over and we're now in waiting mode for season 2. So if you like leaks, official news, pictures, videos, castings, rumors, all of that stuff, I'm covering it here in the channel, and I put out a ton of Wheel of Time content, so make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell if you like that sort of thing. And let's face it, if you're here, you probably like that sort of thing. All right, now, before we get into the review, I do want to mention that all of my reviews, episodes 1 through 7, are based on the show's merits, and it's not in any way, shape, or form based on changes from the source material. So I don't factor that into my ratings or the scoring of the show or what goes on there. I just judge the show based on the show's own merits, and that's pretty much it. I will reference the book, I'll talk about it here and there, but it doesn't affect the score in any way, shape, or form. All right, let's dive into this review. All right, so we're going to talk about this episode. Before we do, I want to mention a couple of different things. I want to remind everyone that I am not basing my scoring or anything that we're talking about changes from the source material. I'm not. I'm trying to review the show on its own merits, and you're probably wondering why my review is coming out a few days later than normal. Normally, this review would have been out yesterday or the day before. I gave myself more time, so I watched the episode, and I had a lot of emotions with it, as did many of the fans watching it. Some people had very strong emotions. They loved it. Some people had very strong emotions. They hated it, and there were a few people in between. I was in between. There were things I liked. There were things I didn't like, but I wanted to watch it a few more times to make sure I liked the things I liked and I didn't like the things I didn't like, if that makes any sense. I wanted to give the review the best possible light, so I did that. That's why it took a little bit longer for this one to come out. Now, the other thing I do want to mention is, for this episode, I want to let you folks know the production went through some stuff. There was a ton of problems getting this episode done, but it got made. So the first thing they had was they had a COVID shutdown. So they had to shut down. Everybody had to go home. It broke the cadence of filming. It kind of lowered morale a bit. There was a lot of problems with that. Because of that, they lost some locations, and when they lost locations, they had to build sets and rewrite the story and rework things a bit to have those sets in place instead. Again, because of COVID, they couldn't have the number of people they wanted on screen filming together, so a lot of the bigger scenes felt small, and it was because of that reason. And then you had a main cast member leave the show, so Barney Harris just up and left. He didn't come back for filming for episode 7 or 8. Now, I do know that there are a ton of rumors as to why, and I'm not going to talk about them, but he didn't come back. He had a small part in episode 7 that was easily worked out. Episode 8, however, he was more of a central character. He had a bigger plot line in that. They had to rework that, rewrite it. There's some placeholders put in place for that, and all of this affected the final product. So it was difficult for them to make, but they did get it made. So we did get a season finale. We did get an ending to the first season, although it maybe wasn't quite as good as anyone expected because of that. So my score in this one is still 5 out of 10. I'm not taking into consideration the changes from the source material, so I can't take into consideration the difficulties they went through to get it made. I have to base that review on the show's own merits. I'm not ignorant of the fact that things went on behind the scenes, but I can't, in good conscience, have it, change my review any. So there's that. So we're going to talk first about cinematography, some of the shots, some of the sets, the locations, things like that. Some were beautiful, some were not. Again, we'll talk about this in the spoiler section a bit more, which ones I liked and which ones I didn't, although some of them felt very cramped, very thrown together. I didn't like them at all. Some of the shots they did, you could tell it was a shot meant for far more people on screen. They didn't have that. So a lot of it felt empty. It was either cramped or big and empty, a lot of these shots. Some of them were really good. By and far, a lot of them I didn't enjoy very much in this episode. The acting saved the episode. That's the only reason it's getting a 5 out of 10, in my opinion, is the acting of on the episode itself. So you had some phenomenal actors here. You had Thomas Chihing, you had Sandra, you had Guy Roberts, you had those three. They were amazing. The scenes they were in, the way they acted out those scenes, absolutely phenomenal. Thomas channeled his version of Lord Elgmar properly, as far as I'm concerned, he did a fantastic job. Sanders' Lady Annalisa was absolutely phenomenal. Guy Roberts as Uno, I loved seeing Uno on the screen. Then we had him and Anna Michon as Loyal. We had Yosha Stradowski as Rand, and Madeline Madden and Zoe Robbins as Egwene and Nynaeve. They were the big stars of this particular episode. And then you had Daniel Henney for a short bit as well, playing Lan. They saved the episode. So the acting was absolutely phenomenal. They took a terrible time, a lot of difficult issues, and they were professional, and they channeled their characters properly. So as far as I was concerned, the acting in this particular episode was great. Next thing we're talking about is special effects and VFX. Abysmal. This episode was not great at all. And you could tell. So they had to change a lot of different things near the end. So they had some good things that happened that I liked, but by and large, a lot of the special effects and VFX in this particular episode were absolutely terrible, and it showed. They were running under budget constraints near the end. They were running out of money. They were running out of time. They had to get this done. They had to change a lot of stuff, and it really showed in the final polished product. It was not great in any way, shape, or form. Again, the spoiler section will talk a little bit more about certain scenes that were really bad, in my opinion, that maybe should have just been cut completely out or framed or shot differently. But, they attempted it. It was there, but it wasn't great. Next thing we're going to talk about, and the final thing I want to talk about, is the pacing. The pacing of this episode, again, all over the place. I didn't like it. So there was a lot of different things where they cut to different scenes. They didn't build up certain characters. They tried to build up other characters. It was kind of a mess the way they cut it together. The editing, again, has been my major complaint the entire first season, and this one is no exception. If Rafe Judkins was given maybe an extra hour, 2-hour finale, this would have been a lot better. So none of the problems. 2-hour finale, a lot more money to get the CG and stuff up there. I would have enjoyed this episode a ton more. It would have took it definitely from a 5 out of 10. I can see them doing this 10 out of 10 because the general story of it I enjoyed, and I liked the way they did certain things and explained certain things. But just the execution was poor in this one. So there's that. All right, so that's my review again, 5 out of 10. So for those of you who've already seen the episode or don't mind spoilers, spoiler warning. We're now getting into the spoiler section of the video where I'm talking about things in detail. So I'm going to talk about plot points, character arcs, things that happened in episode 8, and then I'm also going to reference some of the books. So if you haven't seen at least the first full season, that's all 8 episodes of Sony and Amazon's Wheel of Time show, be forewarned, I'm ruining points from all of that. I'm also going to ruin some points from the first 3 books. That's The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn, just because I'm going to talk about a couple of different scenes and how they coalesce with each other. So fair warning, I'm going to ruin a few things from those books as well. All right, let's get on to the spoiler section of the video. All right, lean back on your knife and let your tongue go free. We now are on full spoilers. We can talk about the episode, certain things that happened, and certain things that we liked and didn't like about it. But full spoilers. That's where we're at now. Last chance to dip out. This episode, one last reminder. None of this is based on changes. I've seen a lot of the fandom very polarized on this episode because of changes. So a lot of people that are book purists are very upset that certain things are changed. A lot of people who aren't book purists are upset that certain things are changed. Again, this review video isn't for that. If you'd like to see the changes and how they collate to the books and the show, my breakdown videos do that. And I'm also going to do a couple of videos explaining the ending and talking about the changes for the entire season and the direction I think they're going in over the coming weeks. So watch for those. So shots, sets, cinematography, not great in this one, and it shows. So, for example, The Blight. The Blight was one of those sets where they had a location set initially, and then they had to build something afterwards because it just didn't work out. Visually, did not like the representation of the Blight at all. It was cramped. It looked like Dagobah. I thought I would see Master Yoda in the background. I didn't enjoy the way it looked. The scenes they shot in there were they felt small, they felt kind of cramped, a little claustrophobic, didn't enjoy that at all. Then you had other scenes in Faldera and the fortress and whatnot. Again, weird way of framing some of the shots, didn't enjoy it too much. The wide shots where you had the soldiers out in the battlefield going towards that little fortress. Again, they couldn't use as many people as they would like for those shots. All of that had to be changed. So there's some problems with that. They felt empty when they showcased everybody from above rather than wide, sweeping, and epic. I didn't enjoy those shots. And then near the end, the Eye of the World, when they were in the Eye of the World, it was pretty. The sets themselves were pretty, but the way they framed a lot of those shots and stuff, I didn't really like the way they did that. There was a couple of really nice ones. For example, the circle of the channelers and stuff. The way they did those shots from above, showcasing kind of like the way they were in a circle. They were great, but by and large, I didn't enjoy it for this episode. Acting. Again, I said a lot of nice things about the acting in this one, and I will continue to say a lot of nice things about the acting just in general. The actors did a fantastic job. They were handed something that maybe wasn't the best, and they brought it up a level or two. It was absolutely amazing. Seeing Lord Ilmar and Lady Annalisa interact together, very touching, very believable. I love those two characters, love those two actors and actress. They were fantastic. Uno, that's Uno. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, my two favorite characters of the entire first season probably are Loyal, because Hammond channels Loyal perfectly, and then you have Uno. Guy Roberts just channels Uno perfectly. I don't know what it is about those two characters, but both of them did a phenomenal job. Again, Uno only had a few short lines in this particular episode, but he stole every scene he was in because he's Uno, and he's cursing just like Uno would. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. Yeah, so the acting in this episode, absolutely phenomenal. Can't say anything else other than that. Yosha did a very, very good job with the scenes he was in, even though they maybe weren't put together the best. Really great acting for this one. Now we're VFX and special effects. This one, not great. Budget constraints showed. The fact that things were changed in the end showed. So the daytime shots of the Trollocs, I think Daniel Green said it looked like it was in an Xbox 360. I'm going to one-up him and say PS2. This definitely looked like PS2. Actually, it felt like I was watching Blade 2, and they're doing that fight in front of the lights. I don't know if you've ever seen that part of that movie, but it was just really cheap, really cheesy, really terrible. The Trollocs during the day, they were like that, only they were blurry. It's almost like they took Vaseline and put it over the camera lens and said, yeah, we're going to kind of blur this out a bit because we can't hide how bad this is. The original Hulk movie where he fought the dogs, the big giant mutant dogs, it was all dark and weird. Yeah, it was the yeah, I don't know what else to say on that. Like, I know you folks know at this point that I am not a fan of CGI at all, if I can tell CGI, but this, not only could you tell it was just bad, and I don't think there's a single person that can disagree with that the CGI, at least the Trollocs during the day, were bad. Now, at nighttime, when it shifted to night, they weren't any better, but it was hidden a bit better because it was darker. They could be blurred out a bit better without noticing. Yeah, so the night shots of the battles were a bit better. When they were exploding and stuff like that, again, muddy, hard to see. You don't really know what's going on. Shots were framed weirdly for that. Didn't enjoy it at all. Really, really terrible, in my opinion, at least anyway. Now we have, we're on to the pacing. Pacing of the episode. So they took, and I understand what they did here. They took, and they tried to make a bunch of different changes here based on the fact that Barney Harris didn't come back to film, and they tried to showcase a bit more of some of the other characters. Completely fine with that. However, we've had very little character building for some of these characters. So Perrin, the most character building we've seen from him probably was in this episode when he picked up the axe. And even then, he was still... You didn't really get the feeling that what he was doing was natural. You have Yosha at the eye. Great. Did a very good job with that. But the way they frame the shots and the way they cut it together, jumping from the eye to the battle with the Trollocs, jumping to Nynaeve and Egwene with Lady Annalisa, jumping to inside the fortress, it didn't work really well. So, for example, if this was an action movie, the cuts were bad. If it was a drama, the cuts were bad. The way they interspace certain things. The only scenes I liked that they cut together were the fact that Rand and Moiraine seen the Seven Towers, and they cut immediately to Nynaeve and Lan together, kind of staying together, talking with each other, lifting those lines from the book that happened in that area, in the Blight in the book. That was a nod to the book fans, and I said it in my Easter egg video. And I liked the way those shots were kind of cut together, but everything else was kind of a mess, the way it was edited. And again, that goes to time constraints. Amazon and Sony are giving Rafe an hour for each episode. That's it. This finale should have been 2 hours minimum. Maybe a mini movie, 2.5 hours, to get everything they needed in there properly, to build the characters up, to make us feel for them, to make us understand what's going on. I really wish they had done all of that. They need more time or more episodes, really. Yeah. So then we're going to talk now about the story. So I don't talk about this in the spoiler-free version because it's too hard because you give stuff away. But the sheer volume of cliffhangers in this, I didn't enjoy it. Didn't Didn't do it for me. So you have Rand leaving and walking away from everybody. Great cliffhanger. He left all his friends. He left everybody. He's out on his own now. You don't know what's going on. Perfect cliffhanger to end a season on. And then you can have the Shan Chen show up afterwards as sort of an after credits scene. Phenomenal. But then you also have Nynaeve not quite burn herself out, but burn herself out, if that makes any sense. So according to some of the bonus materials and things I've read, there are different levels that happen to you while you're burning yourself out in the show. And again, this has nothing to do with the books, because this couldn't have happened in the books, because there are natural buffers in a circle for channelers in the books. We'll cover that in another video. There's so many changes that we need to cover in another video. But she's at about level 4, I think is what was said, and level 10 is burnt out and dead. So she has external scarring, external burns. She hurt herself, but she still has the ability to access the power. She still has, she's not dead. And then Egwene healed her. Another kind of a big cliffhanger, because you don't know what's going on there. That had to be explained in extra bonus material. So there's thoughts. Did she burn herself out? Is she still knocking on death's door? Is she back up and running around and being Nynaeve and killing Trollocs with a dagger and stuff? You don't really know. So that's another cliffhanger. Then you get the big ones. The big one is Uno, Lord Dakota, and Loyal. Oh, Loyal. They did him dirty. They really did. So you had Uno being stabbed with a dagger, Lord Dakota being stabbed with a dagger, and then you had, maybe not stabbed with a dagger, but you had those two on the ground bleeding out, dying. Uno was still moving at the end of the scene. So the cliffhanger with Uno was, is he going to come back for season 2 or not? We really don't know. Now we've heard from a bunch of different articles and stuff that he is a recurring character in season 2, so we're going to see Uno. It's going to happen. But that's a cliffhanger again. And then you have Lord Dakota. Apparently he dies. That was, I assume, to get rid of Amir's character, because Amir was Ingtar originally cast as, and they had to do a bunch of fancy editing to get him out of the episode as Lord Ingtar. And then you have Loyal being stabbed with the dagger. Again, huge ramifications to this, because in the show we haven't seen anybody really get hurt with that dagger too badly yet. We haven't seen what happens to them. Do they turn up to a husk and they die? But book readers know that that dagger is essentially super deadly. Show watchers don't really. So it could be just a regular dagger to them. Either way, he's stabbed, he's on the ground, he's bleeding out. That's another cliffhanger. So then you have that cliffhanger. Then you have the cliffhanger of Moraine. Is she stilled? Is she shielded? Rafe Judkins Ashraner basically came right out and said that she is. He didn't say she's stilled, but he implied it in some of the answers he gave in an interview. I went through my Easter egg video, as well as a couple of other content creators, and we all basically showed the same shots. It looked like a shield being put around her, and it looked like a Shamael was tying it off at the end. So there's that. Another big cliffhanger. You don't know what's going on with Moraine. Then you have another cliffhanger with the Dark One. Again, he was never referred to as Shamael or Forsaken. They weren't really brought up a whole lot other than the scenes in episode 5. So you think he's the Dark One, and you think Rand destroyed him, but he's smiling as he goes out. So that's another cliffhanger. And then you have a broken seal, and that's one of the seals in the Dark One's prison. Again, not explained real well. People really don't know what's going on with that in the show. And again, I'm divorcing this completely from the books. But you know it's bad that thing broke, because it's supposed to be unbreakable. They say that on the screen. Yet another cliffhanger. And there's a couple more that I probably didn't even mention. But these are all cliffhangers for the end of a season. It's too much. It's way too much. It's just too many things. Try and keep you interested to come back for the second season, in my opinion. I love a good cliffhanger. But I like one. I don't like 6 or 7 or 8. So again, that portion of it, the way that was cut together, all of the cliffhangers, again, had something to do with the 5 out of 10. So I know this is probably not going to be a popular review with some people, because again, there are a lot of people out there who really love the show, and I'm not gonna lead you on the wrong path here. I love the show, completely love the show. I completely love the books. They are separate entities in my mind. They are completely separate, and I use my book knowledge to try to enhance my viewing pleasure of the show. And I love being surprised. I love watching the show on the screen. I like turning an episode on and going, what's going to happen this week? We know people are going to die. We know people aren't going to be the same. Characters are going to be changed, stuff like that. That's all a given. I'm excited for stuff like that. I just want it to be well executed. And with all the problems they had going forth in this particular episode, they had a lot of things against them. Personally, I think 5 out of 10. I think they did well considering the problems they were facing. So even though it sounds like a terrible review out of my mouth, it's actually not that bad. It could have been far worse. So I'm hoping that when season 2 picks up, we don't have any COVID shutdowns. We don't have any major actors leave. We don't have any problems with sets or locations. I hope And so far, we haven't heard anything. I mean, they've been filming since July, and we've heard things have been going fairly smoothly. So, hoping that season 2 is a lot more smoother, and they can actually go through the entire thing without being shut down, without losing anybody, without any of the major problems they had coming into this last episode. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. What did you think of the episode? I did a poll on Twitter recently, and about, I think 13 or 14% of you said this was in your top 1 or 2 episodes, and 38% of you said it was in the bottom 1 or 2 episodes for you folks. So, again, there's a lot of people that didn't enjoy this episode. I don't know how many of that's due to the changes, because there are a ton of changes, or how much of it is due to the fact that it is, maybe not put together as well as it should be. So anyway, let me know what you folks think down below. Thank you so very much for sticking with me here to the very end. Here's to many more.